Alright, let's do this. Hey, it's day 70 right now. I am in, okay, I gotta make sure I pronounce it right because I've been saying it wrong this entire time. In the capital city of Slovenia, which is Ljubljana. It's lovely here. It's so peaceful. It has been one of my favorite stops on the entire trip, and it really took me off guard. The food here has been great. The people have been friendly. It's just quiet, well, except for me talking to the camera, but otherwise it's a pretty quiet town. And I thought I would go to my favorite spot here in the city that I found, which is this little park right by the church back here, and just talk about my thoughts so far on the trip, because we're over halfway through the first leg now, and I feel like I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of things that I want to really address, and I know that most of those will probably show up in a video at the end of this leg of the trip once I come back for Christmas. But for right now, I just kind of wanted to share a couple of thoughts and lessons that I've learned along the way, and you know, how I'm feeling about this decision so far. So I'm going a little off script here. Normally I have a script and I kind of do a voice recording and all that, but I thought this would be more impactful and just more honest and raw if I really just sat here and spit out my feelings. With that being said, I do have two main points that I want to cover in this video, but we'll come back to that. First, just want to say, you know, thank you to everybody who's watched the videos, who's interacted with the videos and interacted with me on Instagram, and really just kind of kept in touch through this. I apologize, I don't always respond super quick. Sometimes I have issues with reception, sometimes I have issues with my phone plan in the first place. Sometimes it really is that busy where I'm not on my phone most of the day. Jenny commented that her screen time went down the other day. Like, she noticed her screen time consistently has gone down to like an average of like 30 minutes a day. Like, it's crazy how like much less we're on the phone now because we're out doing stuff like this. But thank you for still being there, for still being patient, and you know, I just appreciate every single person who is watching this video, who's watched my other videos, and there's certainly more along the way. I'm actually surprised that I'm able to sustain the output that I've been able to sustain, but you know, it's working, so I'm gonna keep doing it. So yeah, now I guess I'll just kind of transition into where we are, which is Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. I've wanted to visit Slovenia for a very long time. It's probably about 8 or 9 years now that I've wanted to come here, and I've always just felt like I could never justify a trip here. It's just like the logistical challenges of getting here. The airport in the city is not super big, so it's always been tough to really justify getting here and making a trip to Slovenia happen. But we're here now, we have a week here, and it's been so amazing so far. I've just been so happy, and something that's made our time here different from the other cities we visited is that the time that we are in Ljubljana is purely rest period. So it is purely just stay at home, catch up on errands, catch up on sleep, call loved ones, and photo and video editing, like the you know, the normal day-to-day life stuff. And I just don't think I could have picked a better place to do that. This is such a quaint, livable, small town kind of city. It's just so calm and peaceful and relaxing, and I've just loved our time here. I almost wish we had more time here to not have rest days, because it's such a great town to walk around. The food, oh my gosh, the food here has been amazing. I guess because there's so many like diplomats and exchange students and things like that. There's like Asian restaurants, there's you know, just all kinds of different cuisines here, and everything we've eaten has been some of the best meals we've had on this trip so far. We went to a Slovenian, like, you know, kind of sausage and meats place last night, and it had to have been top 3 favorite meals I've had on this trip. And we're just coming back from Sicily, where I thought the food was going to be out of this world, and it pales in comparison to the food we had here. So hey, if you do a Slovenia trip, stop in Ljubljana, get some Asian food, and I'll come back to that in a second. But yeah, Ljubljana has been spectacular for what I've really needed from this trip, which has just been some peace and quiet, so I can focus, get stuff done, and somewhere that's just easy to walk around, relaxing. Yeah, it's been spectacular. And the rest thing I have found has been one of the most important additions to the trip. When I made a spreadsheet kind of planning out this trip day by day, I added rest days in, and I think I averaged it about like 1 in every 6 days, maybe 1 in every 5 days, somewhere in that range. And that's ended up being pretty spot on. I'd say 1 in 5 days is really the kicker, but we're just at a point now where we've done so much between Morocco and our layover in Paris and Sicily that we needed back-to-back days where we just did nothing. And in advance, I already booked that on the calendar. I knew it was going to happen, that we were going to be tired at this point. And I think it's going to happen again once we get to Athens in Greece. Spoiler alert, but when we get to Athens, I think we're going to have double rest day as well. And it's been one of those stays where I really, for the first time, I felt like I'm on vacation. Like, I feel like I've been just relaxed. And even though we've been doing errands, we've been working on laundry, and I think I edited 3 different videos while we were here. Like, I was busy, but it still felt like a vacation, you know? We've still felt like tourists, and it's been nice. I think this is the first time I've really felt like we're not traveling, we're on vacation, if that makes sense. I know that sounds kind of redundant, but you'd be surprised how stark the difference is on a trip like this. I know I mentioned in my Tangier video how much we love Rabat because it was so livable, it was so easy to just do what we needed to do. And I feel the same way about this city. It's just so easy to do the things that we need to do here, and I'm so grateful for that. It's not like there's this major challenge with language or with the streets. You're not constantly worried about getting hit by cars. It just feels like easy to be here, and I can't wait to come back. We leave this morning, and I'm really bummed that we're leaving so soon because I really love it here. This is one of my favorite cities I've visited on this trip so far. Alright, so gotten that off my chest, you kind of get the idea of where we are, how we're feeling. Now I really want to talk about some takeaways, of which there are 2 main ones that I want to talk about. There's going to be more at the end of the year when I make that video, but for right now I want to talk about my 2 biggest takeaways. The first takeaway from this trip is, what was it? I remember the second one. What was the first one? Oh yeah, first one. The first one, oh, church bells are going off. It must be probably 8, I guess. The first big takeaway is how fun this trip is, but for entirely different reasons from what you would expect. Like, when I was planning this trip, I thought it was going to be fun because those moments of adventure, the big moments, were going to really just like blow you away and be unlike anything that you've ever seen before. I'm talking about things like the Pico de Pico hike. I'm talking about things like going out to the desert, the Sahara in Morocco, which unfortunately we didn't get to do, but things like that I really thought were going to be like the highlights of the trip. And what it's really turned out to be is the highlights of this trip have just been how uncomfortable easy things have become, you know? It's like going and doing laundry is not a chore like it is back home where we have a washer and dryer in the basement. Doing laundry here is looking for a laundromat, finding the best price, gathering everything up, figuring out how to use the laundry machines, and just kind of getting that task done. Same thing for finding food. Finding restaurants can be kind of uncomfortable and funny. This Japanese restaurant here in Ljubljana it's one of the other best meals that I've had on this trip, and it was in a train station, like in the main train station here, in the basement, like hole in the wall. If we didn't look it up, we would have never known it even existed. And the hunt for that restaurant was just so like ridiculous. Like we're like wandering through the train station or the bus station, whatever. Like we're just like, okay, like where are we? Like what platform are we even supposed to go to for Japanese noodles? You know, it ended up just being so ridiculous and kind of like uncomfortable in a way, but it's the best part of this trip. It's the best part of traveling like this, is that, you know, every time you get somewhere new, it's like a whole map opens up and there's this whole new place that you have to discover. And it's almost like playing a video game where you've got this task and checkpoint, you have this task and checkpoint, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. in this massive open world, and it's so fun. Like everything we do, even the stuff that's like mundane, you know, it just becomes so fun. And as you do this more, it becomes less uncomfortable, but in kind of like a nice way. And you start to get more familiar with your surroundings, and that becomes comfortable. When we first got here, the next morning after our first night here, we were walking past the street and these two houses that we just find really cute. And Jenny and I both, like at the same time, were just like, oh, it's those houses from yesterday, you know? And there's something about that inside that makes you feel safe and okay, that you recognize your surroundings, even if it's somewhere that you just got to last night. And I just really like that feeling. I like that feeling of having to get comfortable somewhere new. It's always been one of my favorite parts of life, is, you know, challenging myself to live somewhere new and get accustomed to what life is like there. And that's kind of something that we've had to do. And in Morocco, it was one of the biggest challenges of going there. And we walked away really feeling like we stayed in Morocco, we lived in Morocco, we were a part of Morocco by the end. And that was like such an amazing feeling. And it's grown to become one of my favorite parts of this trip, is just like tackling that uncomfortable feeling and making our surroundings comfortable. So I can't wait for, you know, when we get to Asia and when I get to Central and hopefully South America. Like, it's just going to be like so fascinating how that feels. But for right now, that's probably my favorite part of traveling like this. The second point, the second takeaway that I want to talk about before I wrap this video up is FOMO. FOMO has been something that I've always suffered with, and it's half the reason I'm even on this trip. So it's not entirely bad. You know, fear of missing out can be very helpful in, you know, identifying, you know, if something is worth, you know, going to or whatever. Like, there's a lot of things that I think FOMO does contribute in a good way to, but in the same token, I think there are bad ways that FOMO can contribute. And Jenny and I, but myself especially, have definitely struggled with FOMO in the past. And taking this trip was sort of fueled by FOMO. And the reason that I took this trip was because I had this huge bucket list of places I wanted to visit. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to get these at the rate that I'm able to travel right now. So I stopped working, I saved up money, and I left. And, you know, I'm trying to hit all these places, not even all these places, just some of the more affordable ones on this list for a year. And I don't even come close to finishing that list. I don't even come close to getting halfway through that list. It's insane how little time a year is when you look at the grand scheme of things. But that's okay. I recognize that. But like, something that I have learned when I look at where I was day 1 in Madeira versus day 70 now, is that I don't really feel like I'm missing out on something if I don't do it. And I know I talked about this kind of thing in the Rome video, which has done very well, and I think a lot of people have connected with that you're not going to see everything when you go somewhere. And that's okay. You should just be grateful that you are where you're at. But the thing that really I have walked away from is that I just enjoy being somewhere new and just absorbing. And I've never really gotten the chance to do that, because I always assume when I visit somewhere that I'm not going to get to go back for a very long time. And now that I've been doing this trip, I've just kind of slowed down. I've like been breathing, like I've been smelling the flowers a little bit, like really just enjoying where I am in life. And it's really helped me like not struggle with that fear of missing out. And I'll just give like an example. When we first got to Madeira, it was like a couple days in, we made a friend there named Katie, shout out Katie from Germany. And we were invited by her to this rooftop party. And I remember Jenny being like, oh, I don't know if we should do this because it's 15 euros each. It really cuts into budget. It's going to be a busy day that day. I'm not sure if we'll have that much fun. And I was like, well, we have to do it. Like, a rooftop party, like, how are we going to miss out on that, you know? And so we ended up going, and it ended up being a ton of fun. Like, we had a blast. I had a lot of fun, and it was one of those things that I really don't regret doing. But when I look back at that, I do realize that there was no part of me that was like, I'm going to Madeira for the rooftop parties, you know? I went to Madeira for the nature and the beaches and the natural beauty, you know? And when opportunities present themselves, it's good to take them. But I definitely look back at that and I'm like, yeah, there was some serious FOMO there that, you know, this friend that I made or these friends I'd made are going to be at this party and I'm not going to be there, all because of, you know, 15 euros. But I'm glad that I did that. I'm glad that I went. But I recognize now that that was sort of fueled by a fear of missing out. Fast forward to day, oh man, 63. The worst part is I have to do this video, so for this day, so I don't even remember what day it is, but I think it's something like 63. It was while we were in Sicily. We're on the road trip, and we are recommended by our friend Nathan. Shout out Nathan from Australia. He's in the Fez hike video. We're recommended by Nathan to go to Taormina and go see the theater there. And Taormina was lovely. It was a great town, very touristy, very out of our budget, but we still had a good time there. We are on the fence about this theater, and it's supposed to be very cool theater, lovely views. It's been kind of modernized, but it's like a 2,000-year-old theater, so you can imagine it's a pretty crazy spectacle. But it's 1350 euros a person to get in, and our budget in Sicily was a lot tighter than I really realized, and there was something in Sicily that I wanted to do more than this, and it was kind of like not between the two, but I knew if I spent money on one it was going to be hard to justify spending money on the other. And so we were kind of like, we went back and forth about it, and we basically decided like, okay, let's go check it out. Like, we're in Taormina, it's like the main thing to see here, we don't want to miss it. And so we went, and it ended up being really underwhelming for us. The views were amazing, but the theater itself was really underwhelming, because we had seen a theater the day before that felt more preserved and more historic. And it just felt like, I guess at a certain point you see so many castles and ancient Roman ruins and temples or whatever, and they all kind of just become like cool. But it's not like something, when you're around it, it is just normal. It's kind of like how people in New York, like a lot of them have never been up the Empire State Building or to the Statue of Liberty, or people in DC haven't always been up the Washington Monument. Like, you kind of just, it's cool that they're there, and if somebody's visiting, you're like, oh, you gotta see it. But it isn't necessarily like the same feeling of, wow, that's amazing, when you've seen other stuff like it. And I just remember walking away from that and being like, we did this because we didn't want to miss out. And the next day we went to Mount Etna, and we were supposed to go up the cable car and go further up the volcano, and we ended up just deciding to stay where the parking lots were and hike around like the lower part of the volcano, because at the end of the day, like 50 euros each to go up a cable car and get a better view, to me, just like that feels like FOMO. That feels like me spending money on something that I shouldn't spend money on, at least right now in my life, because every dollar counts, every like penny counts. It's crazy how, like, when we budget, like if we're $50 over, I'm like, how are we going to catch this up? Like, it's nuts how big a difference like a $10 or $15 admission can make. So yeah, I mean, that's been one of my other biggest takeaways, is that like FOMO hasn't really bothered me as much as it used to. And now that we're in Ljubljana, I really feel like that's a healthy step, because there's been a couple of things here worth seeing that we haven't really seen, like we haven't gone out of our way to see. One is the castle on the mountain here, but we pass it so many times and we always marvel at how lovely it is, how it really like completes the city. And the other thing is, like, there's this old Roman wall here in Ljubljana, and we always pass it on our way to town. And always like, oh, there's the ancient Roman wall, It's kind of like back home, if we had an ancient anything, we'd have to go like look at it and absorb it and learn every detail about it. And here we're kind of just like, oh, it's such a cool addition to an already great, lovely town. So yeah, getting more comfortable with the uncomfortable and kind of working on FOMO, those have been the two biggest takeaways from this trip so far, 70 days in. I'm sad to be leaving Ljubljana. It's a great city, highly recommend it if you can visit. I've got some great stories, little stories, but I don't really have the chance to talk about them in this video. I just don't have the time. This video's already really gone on long enough, but I appreciate if you stuck around and watched all this. I appreciate that you've been watching everything up to this point, and I apologize, this is a little different from the rest. I hope you enjoyed the lovely background. I hope the sun didn't distract from me too much, but it really has been such an amazing trip. If I ended it today, I would still not regret a single decision that I made, because this has been the most fulfilling lifestyle for me. This is the most happy I've ever felt in my entire life. And it makes me wonder what life will be like when I get back, because it's hard to imagine going back. I could do this forever, I feel like. I'm just having so much fun. And we really are living within, our means. It's a pretty strict budget, but despite that, like, we still eat amazing food, we still have incredible experiences, we still meet awesome people, and we're still happy. And that is just the best feeling in the world. Alright, that's enough of that. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in, I guess, probably on the road trip. We're about to go on a road trip around Slovenia, so I'm sure I'll film something from that. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate, you. I don't know why I'm rambling. The video's over. That's it. It's done. See ya.